There are mornings where you wake up and think, life isn't so bad. This was not one of those mornings. I opened my eyes to the sight of Emma's pale, anxious face looming over me, her hands fumbling with my carrier. That's when I knew something was horribly wrong. "This is for the best, Fluffy," she muttered, her voice cracking. "The best? Emma, the best would be me sleeping on a pile of freshly laundered towels right now, not being stuffed into a mobile prison. What fresh hell are you dragging me into this time?" Her grandparents were dead. House fire. Gone in a puff of smoke, like the finale of a bad magician's act. Emma had been in a daze for days, barely speaking, barely eating. Humans get like that when they're sad. Me? I make jokes. House fires are nature's way of saying, time to redecorate. Too soon? Probably. But let's not pretend this is the first tragedy in this family. I've seen Emma cook. She snapped the carrier shut and hoisted me into the car. No ceremony, no explanations, just a quick, "I'll be back," and then we were off. The drive to the cat hotel was silent, except for the occasional sniffle from Emma and the sound of my claws raking the carrier's mesh. "This is just temporary," she said at one point, her voice so soft it was barely audible. "I need some time, Fluffy, just a little time." "Time? Sure, Emma, take all the time you need. It's not like I have abandonment issues or anything." "Oh, wait, I do." I'd been here before, not this exact situation, but close enough. Sharon and Tim, my former owners, had looked at me with the same mix of guilt and pity the day they dumped me at the shelter. "It's for the best," they'd said. "You'll be happy here." Happy? The shelter was a nightmare. Metal cages, barking dogs, and the smell of fear hanging in the air like cheap cologne. I'd spent weeks wondering what I'd done wrong. Was I too aloof? Too sarcastic? Too much of a cat? Then Emma showed up. She wasn't much to look at. Frizzy hair, scuffed boots, and a smile that looked like it hadn't been used in a while. But she picked me. She didn't care that I didn't purr on command or do stupid tricks. She just took me home. And now here we were, full circle, back to the beginning. The Cat Hotel was a gilded nightmare. Perlux Suites, where cats reign supreme. The sign read in a font so fancy it made my tail twitch. The lobby was worse. Gold accents, chandeliers, and staff in uniform so crisp you could cut yourself on their lapels. "This is Fluffy," Emma told the receptionist, her voice shaky. He doesn't like new places." The receptionist cooed at me like I was a baby. "Oh, don't worry, he'll love it here." "Love it? Lady, I didn't love it the first time I was abandoned, and I'm not going to love it now. But go ahead, sprinkle some tuna on my trauma. That'll fix it." Emma crouched down to face me, her eyes glassy. "It's just for a little while, Fluffy. I promise I'll be back." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But promises don't mean much in places like this. I'd heard them all before. "We'll come back. You'll be fine. It's not you, it's us." Humans lie. "Sure, Emma, you'll be back. And I'll win the Nobel Prize for not shredding your favorite sweater." My suite was a study in excess. A bed shaped like a throne, a water fountain bubbling with what I assumed was Avion, and bowls of kibble that probably cost more than Emma's last paycheck. "This is your new home for the week," the porter chirped, setting down my carrier. "New home? This place looks like it was decorated by someone who's never met an actual cat. Where's the cardboard box and the crinkly paper bag? This is a prison cell with throw pillows." And then I met Maurice. Maurice was a Siamese with a personality that could peel paint. He introduced himself with a chirpy, "Hiya, pal, welcome to the Perlux," and proceeded to launch into a monologue about his gluten-free diet and his belief in UFOs. "Did you know the pyramids were built by aliens?" he asked, his tail twitching. I stared at him. "No," Maurice grinned. "No? What do you mean, no?" "I mean no to your conspiracy theories, no to your face, and no to this entire conversation. Now leave me alone before I start believing in lizard people just to spite you." The first night was hell. A staff member tried to coax me into socializing with the other cats. She reached for me, smiling like I was some kind of idiot. Big mistake. I hissed, swatted, and sent her scrambling to the other side of the room. Nobody touches Fluffy without permission. That's a rule I enforce with claws. "Wow," Maurice said, perched on the scratching post. "You really don't like humans, huh?" "Just one. And she's not here. Everyone else is expendable." As the night wore on, I sat by the window, staring out at the parking lot. Emma's car was long gone, swallowed by the dark. A sick feeling settled in my gut. What if she doesn't come back? What if this is it? Sharon and Tim all over again. The thought clawed at me, a relentless, gnawing dread. I tried to push it away, but it kept coming back, whispering in the dark corners of my mind. She's gone. You're alone. Again. The next morning, Maurice tried to cheer me up with a lecture on positive thinking. You just have to manifest good vibes, man, he said, his tail flicking. Manifest this, Maurice. I swatted him off the scratching post. By the time the lights went out that night, I'd decided two things. One, I hated Maurice. Two, I missed Emma more than I cared to admit. As I curled up on the too fluffy bed, staring at the too clean ceiling, I made a silent vow. If she doesn't come back, I'm burning this place to the ground, starting with Maurice. It had been a week. 7 endless days of this posh prison, with Maurice's voice becoming less a background nuisance and more like a soundtrack to my slow descent into madness. Emma had left with promises of a quick return, but those promises were starting to feel like smoke, something you see but can't hold on to. I sat on the plush window perch of my suite, staring out at the parking lot below. The same sterile cars, the same manicured hedges, nothing changed. Maurice was napping on the overly fluffy bed, sprawled out like he didn't have a care in the world. For someone whose owners had ghosted him months ago, he was remarkably chipper. Too chipper. You ever wonder if humans forget about us on purpose? I asked, my voice low. Maurice blinked one eye open. What do you mean? You know, like they realize we don't fit into their perfect little lives anymore, so they just leave us. Maurice yawned, stretching his legs lazily. Nah, humans are just scatterbrained. They're like goldfish. Everything's new for 5 seconds, then poof, forgotten. Goldfish? That's one way to put it. Another way is heartless bastards. The second week started with another round of socialization time. This time I wasn't just avoiding the staff, I was actively plotting their demise. Karen, the ever-smiling staff member, crouched down and tried to coax me out from under the scratching post with a feather toy. Come on, Fluffy. Don't you want to play? Play? Karen, I'm 2 seconds away from introducing your hand to my claws. Do I look like I'm in the mood for games? Maurice, ever the eager joiner, bounded up and swatted at the feather. Isn't this fun, Fluffy? Look how it moves. I rolled my eyes and slinked further back. Fun, Maurice. This is torture. Stop embarrassing yourself. The food situation didn't improve either. The hotel boasted gourmet meals prepared by feline nutritionists, but I wasn't buying it. The portions were small, the flavors bland, and the presentation pretentious. One evening, the staff served us a plate of organic free-range chicken pâté. Maurice sniffed his plate and let out an exaggerated purr. Oh, wow! This is amazing! I glared at him. It's mush on a plate, Maurice. You could slap organic on a hairball, and these humans would call it haute cuisine. He ignored me and licked his plate clean. I ate just enough to avoid starvation and spent the rest of the evening sulking by the window. As the days dragged on, I found myself missing Emma more than I cared to admit. I missed her bad singing, her clumsy attempts to brush me, and the way she'd always sneak me an extra treat when she thought I wasn't looking. But the doubts kept creeping in. What if she wasn't coming back? What if this was it? She's coming back, you know, Maurice said one night, his voice softer than usual. I looked at him, surprised. What makes you so sure? He shrugged. She looked sad when she left. Sad humans always come back. It's the guilty ones you've got to worry about. Great. Now Maurice is a philosopher. Somebody shoot me. Day 11 brought an incident that nearly ended with me in solitary confinement. One of the newer staff members, a teenager with braces and an attitude, thought it would be funny to try and pick me up. Hey there, buddy, he said, reaching down with his grubby hands. I hissed, flattening my ears. Touch me, and you lose a finger. He didn't listen. Humans never do. The moment his hand came too close, I swiped at it with all the precision of a surgeon. Ow! What the hell? He yelped, clutching his bleeding hand. Maurice watched from the bed, his eyes wide. Fluffy, you can't just attack people. Attack, Maurice, that was a warning. If I'd wanted to attack, he'd be calling an ambulance right now. The next day, Lady Marmalade made an appearance. She strolled into the communal area with all the grace of royalty, her white coat shimmering under the overhead lights. I tried not to stare, but it was impossible. She was magnetic. "You're still here?" she asked, her voice smooth and detached. I nodded. "Unfortunately." She tilted her head, studying me. "You don't seem like the type to stay in one place for long." "Oh, you have no idea, Lady Marmalade. If I had my way, I'd be halfway to freedom by now." She flicked her tail and walked away, leaving me with a sinking feeling in my chest. By day 13, the staff started whispering about me. I could hear them in the hallway, their voices low but not low enough. "Do you think his owner's coming back?" one of them asked. "I don't know," another replied. "She seemed off. Maybe she's not ready to take him back yet." I hissed under my breath. "Not ready? What kind of excuse is that? I'm not a piece of furniture, you idiots. I'm family." Maurice noticed my agitation and tried to cheer me up. "You know what always makes me feel better? Thinking about the pyramids." I groaned. "Maurice, I swear to everything holy, if you bring up aliens one more time, I'm throwing you out the window." And then, on day 14, it happened. The door opened and there she was, Emma. I froze, my heart pounding. She looked tired, exhausted even, but she was there. "Fluffy," she whispered, her voice breaking. I launched myself off the bed, yowling like a banshee. She dropped to her knees, catching me in her arms as tears streamed down her face. "Oh, Fluffy," she sobbed, holding me close. "I missed you so much." "Missed me? Emma, you left me here to rot. But I missed you too. And if you ever do this again, I'm pooping in your shoes." On the way out, the staff stopped her. "Miss, can we speak with you about Maurice?" I groaned. "Of course, it's always about Maurice." The staff explained the situation. Maurice's owners were AWOL, and he had nowhere else to go. Emma looked at Maurice, then at me. "What do you think, Fluffy?" I hissed. "What do I think? I think Maurice is a conspiracy nut who drives me insane, but I also think we can't just leave him here. Take him. Just don't expect me to like it." In the car, Emma finally broke the news. "We're set for life, Fluffy," she said, smiling faintly. "The insurance payout from the fire, it was enough to take care of everything. We can finally breathe." I tilted my head, studying her face. She looked relieved, but there was something darker underneath. "Set for life? Sure, Emma. And all it cost was 2 lives and a house. Call it a bargain if you're feeling optimistic." She laughed, reaching over to scratch my ears. "Don't worry, Fluffy. Things are going to get better." Better? Maybe. But if Maurice starts talking about lizard people again, I'm burying him in the litter box. There are moments in life when you look around and think, this could be worse. And then you remember Maurice exists, and suddenly things feel much worse. We were somewhere in the heart of Poland, cruising along a road dotted with potholes big enough to hide a body. Emma was laser-focused on her mission, finding a new campervan to replace the Silver Snail. Maurice was laser-focused on annoying me to death. "You know," Maurice mused from his carrier in the back seat, "if you squint, these potholes kind of look like craters, maybe from a meteor shower thousands of years ago." I glanced back at him, my green eyes narrowing. "Or maybe from years of neglect by Polish road crews. Pick a more realistic theory, Maurice." Emma chuckled, though I wasn't sure if it was at Maurice's nonsense or my disdain. "Boys, play nice," she said, her tone distracted as she swerved to avoid yet another pothole. "Play nice? Emma, you dragged me into this situation, saddled me with a conspiracy theorist, and now you want peace? Sure, let me just find my inner Dalai Lama." Our destination was a dealership on the outskirts of a small Polish town. Emma had spent hours researching online, muttering to herself about floor plans and engine types while I tried to nap. Maurice, of course, had plenty of opinions. "You know, Emma," he chirped, "you should get a camper with solar panels. That way you can be eco-friendly. Save the planet." I shot him a look. "Maurice, the planet doesn't need saving from Emma. It needs saving from you and your endless chatter." He ignored me, as usual. The dealership was a mixed bag, rows of shiny new caravans next to rust buckets that looked like they'd barely survived the Cold War. Emma wandered from one to another, poking her head inside and taking notes. Maurice and I stayed in the car, my choice, his mandate. "So, Fluffy," Maurice began, his voice unusually soft, "can I ask you something?" "No," I replied without hesitation. He continued anyway. "Do you think Emma would have taken me if you weren't here? I mean, she saved me, and I'm grateful, but she wouldn't have, right?" I turned to him, my tail flicking with annoyance. Listen, Maurice, I'm not a therapist and you're not my priority. But no, she wouldn't have taken you. I'm the reason you're here. I'm also the reason you haven't been drop-kicked into oblivion yet. He blinked, his blue eyes wide. So, you saved me too? I sighed. Don't read too much into it. I just didn't want to feel guilty if they put you down. That doesn't mean we're friends. Maurice smiled faintly. Thanks, Fluffy. I mean it. You and Emma, you saved my life. Great. Now I'm the hero of this story. Just what I needed. After a few false starts, one camper smelled like mildew, another had a suspicious stain that Emma refused to identify, we found it. The one. A sleek, modern masterpiece with a spacious interior, state-of-the-art appliances, and enough storage to accommodate even Maurice's endless nonsense. Emma's eyes lit up like she'd just won the lottery. This is it, she said, her voice filled with awe. Fluffy, Maurice, this is going to be our new home. I leapt onto the passenger seat, inspecting the dashboard. It was pristine, begging for my fur to be spread all over it. Not bad, Emma, not bad at all. But don't think this means you're off the hook for the cat hotel fiasco. As we finalized the paperwork, Maurice turned to me with a sheepish expression. You know, Fluffy, I never really thanked you properly. I arched an eyebrow. For what? For letting me come with you. I know I'm not your favorite, but you and Emma, you're the closest thing to family I've got. I stared at him for a long moment before replying. Maurice, your name might sound South American and sophisticated, but let's get one thing straight. I'm not gay, neutered or not. And while I'm stuck with you, let's be clear, Emma is mine. You're a secondary citizen at best. He nodded, his ears drooping slightly. I understand. But, I added grudgingly, you're not the worst company, when you're not talking anyway. Maurice perked up, his tail wagging like a puppy's. Thanks, Fluffy. That means a lot. Don't get used to it, I muttered, settling into my new spot on the dashboard. Emma finished signing the papers, and just like that, we were the proud owners of a campervan that made Vandolph the Grey look like a tin can on wheels. As we pulled out of the dealership, I stretched out on my new perch, feeling the sun warm my fur. Emma glanced back at us, her smile soft. We did it, boys. A new start, for all of us. Maurice chirped happily. This is going to be amazing. I rolled my eyes. Amazing? Sure, Maurice. Just don't touch my spot and we'll get along fine. Emma laughed, reaching over to scratch behind my ears. You're my good boy, Fluffy. Damn right I am, and don't you forget it. To be continued.